The late afternoon sun hung low over the Carolina coast, its golden rays splintering across the waves stretching against the rocky shore below the Caldwell estate. Ethan Caldwell, a 38-year-old white American real estate magnate, stood at the wrought iron gates of his beachfront mansion, his tailored charcoal suit creased from a long flight. His pale skin glistened with a thin sheen of sweat, and his sharp blue eyes, shadowed by exhaustion, scanned the sprawling property. Weeks of navigating New York's media circus, where every reporter wanted a piece of Caldwell Corp's latest skyscraper deal, had drained him. This secluded Charleston retreat, perched on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, was supposed to be his sanctuary. But as he gripped his leather briefcase, a prickle of unease stirred in his chest. Something felt off. The air carried a faint salt tang, mingling with the scent of manicured jasmine hedges. Ethan punched in his security code, the gate's mechanism humming as it swung open. His footsteps crunched on the gravel path, echoing in the stillness. The mansion loomed ahead, its white stucco walls and floor-to-ceiling windows catching the fading light. At 38, Ethan had built a fortune on sharp instincts, sensing market shifts before they materialized. Those same instincts whispered that the quiet was too deep, the house too still. Inside, the marble foyer gleamed under a crystal chandelier, but no sound greeted him, no hum of activity, no distant clatter from the kitchen. His longtime housekeeper, Clara, had retired 3 months ago at 62, and Ethan had left the hiring of her replacement to his estate manager, preferring distance from domestic details. "Hello?" His voice bounced off the pristine walls, unanswered. Loosening his tie, he moved toward his private wing, where the setting sun streamed through glass, casting amber pools across the hardwood. A flicker of movement caught his eye through the window. In his private pool, visible only from his quarters, a woman floated on her back, her dark hair fanning out like ink in the water. Amara Jackson, 35, a Black American woman, moved with effortless grace, her rich brown skin glistening under the sun's caress. She seemed utterly at ease, as if the pool were her own. At the pool's edge stood a man, his figure backlit, features indistinct. Ethan's pulse quickened, his jaw tightening. This pool was his haven, off limits to staff, a boundary Clara had never crossed. He strode toward the French doors, his polished shoes clicking on the tiles. As he reached the pool deck, the man vanished around the corner of the house, leaving Amara alone. She stood in the shallow end, water cascading down her black one-piece swimsuit, which hugged her curves. Ethan's voice cut through the evening air, sharp and controlled. "This is a private pool. You're trespassing." Amara turned, her complete lips curving faintly, her deep brown eyes locking onto his with unflinching intensity. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, her voice smooth, unhurried, carrying a faint low-country drawl. "I thought you weren't due until next week." No apology, no surprise. Just a calm that kept Ethan on edge. "You'll find I rarely follow schedules," he replied, stepping closer. Her presence was magnetic, her high cheekbones and poised stance demanding attention in a way that felt at odds with her role. "Who are you?" "Amara Jackson, your new housekeeper." She reached for a towel, her movements deliberate, wrapping it around herself with a fluid grace. "My apologies if I overstepped. I wasn't aware the pool had restricted hours." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "And the man with you?" "Just a friend," she said, sliding her feet into simple sandals. "I didn't realize it would be an issue." "Everything on my property is my business, Ms. Jackson." He loomed closer, using his 6'2" frame to assert authority, a tactic that had silenced boardrooms. I don't appreciate secrets. Her eyes flickered with something, perhaps amusement, before she brushed past him, leaving a trail of water droplets on the teak deck. I'm sure you don't, Mr. Caldwell. She paused at the door, glancing back. If you're staying, I'll prepare dinner. Any preferences? He stared after her, the question catching him off guard. Surprise me, he said finally, his tone clipped. She nodded and disappeared into the house, leaving Ethan alone by the pool, the breeze raising goosebumps on his arms. He pulled out his phone, dialing his estate manager. Find out everything you can about Amara Jackson, now. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan stood rooted, the pool's ripples reflecting the first stars. Amara Jackson was no ordinary housekeeper, and that man, whatever he was, hadn't just wandered onto his property. Something was brewing, and Ethan Caldwell was determined to uncover it. What do you think Amara's hiding? Drop your guesses in the comments below, and if you're hooked on this mystery, give us a like and hit that subscribe button to catch the next twist in this coastal conspiracy. The Charleston sunset bled crimson across the horizon, its light filtering through the tall windows of Ethan Caldwell's mansion, casting long shadows across the marble floors. Ethan stood in his study, the faint hum of the air conditioning the only sound in the otherwise silent house. His tie hung loose around his neck, and his briefcase lay abandoned on the leather sofa. The image of Amara Jackson in his private pool lingered like a riddle he couldn't solve. Her calm defiance, the mysterious man who vanished into the dusk, it all gnawed at him, a puzzle that refused to align. He crossed to his desk, expecting to find the acquisition papers for the Parker property, a 30-acre coastal plot central to his next development deal. Instead, he saw an empty bottle of his prized 2004 Chateau Petrus, a $500 vintage he'd saved for a boardroom victory. The bottle sat beside a single crystal glass, its rim marked with a faint smudge of coral lipstick. His fingers tightened around the bottle's neck, the label cool against his palm. The papers were gone, and the safe beneath his desk, its combination known only to him, remained untouched. This wasn't an accident. Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed Marcus, his private investigator, whose discretion had unraveled countless corporate secrets. Marcus, I need everything on Amara Jackson, my new housekeeper. Employment history, education, connections. Dig deep. Something's not right. Marcus's voice crackled through the line, steady but curious. Anything specific, sir? Ethan hesitated, glancing at the lipstick-stained glass. She was in my private pool with an unknown man, and now my acquisition files are missing. I want answers by morning. Hanging up, Ethan paced to the window overlooking the pool. The water was still now, reflecting the first stars, but the memory of Amara's unflinching gaze burned in his mind. She moved with a purpose that didn't match her job title. Her words were laced with a subtle challenge. He activated his office's innovative system. Computer, pull up security footage from the pool area, 6:00 p.m. to 7:00 p.m. The wall screen flickered, then displayed a static error message. Camera malfunction. No footage available. Ethan's jaw clenched. A malfunction, precisely when he'd arrived home. Coincidences didn't sit well with him. Amara sat across the estate in a modest cottage, tucked among live oaks at a small wooden table, her fingers tracing the edges of a worn leather journal. The pages held faded newspaper clippings and handwritten notes, relics of a past she couldn't escape. A knock at the door broke her focus. Nia, her confidant and only ally in this high-stakes game, stepped inside, her copper curls catching the lamplight. "You're playing a dangerous hand," Nia said, closing the door behind her. "I drove past the main house. His car's still there. Ethan Caldwell wasn't supposed to be back for a week." Amara closed the journal, her lips curving into a faint smile. Plans change, Nia. Maybe this is better. Faster. She stood, moving to the window, where the ocean murmured beyond the trees. He saw me in the pool with Jamal. His face, pure shock. The great Ethan Caldwell was thrown off balance, worth every second. Nia sank into a chair, running a hand through her hair. And the champagne? The missing files? That's bold, even for you. Amara's smile widened. Just setting the stage. The bottle was a message. He knows someone's been in his space. The files. They're safe, tucked away where he'll never look. But he'll wonder. And that's the point. Doubt is a powerful weapon. You're sure about this? Nia's voice dropped, her eyes searching Amara's. Caldwell's not just some wealthy playboy. His father's empire has crushed people like us for decades. If he figures out who you are... Amara cuts her off, her tone firm. He won't. Not yet. Jamal's keeping his distance, and I've covered my tracks. 5 years of planning, Nia. Every detail, every contingency. Ethan Caldwell's curious now, but curiosity can be controlled. Nia leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. And Jamal? You trust him not to go rogue? He's got as much reason to hate the Caldwells as you do. Amara's gaze drifted to the journal, a shadow passing over her face. Jamal's lost as much as I have. He's in this for the same reason, to see Victor Caldwell pay. We're not here to destroy Ethan, to unravel the truth. But if he gets in the way... She let the words hang, unfinished. Ethan poured a bourbon in the mansion, the amber liquid catching the desk lamp's glow. Marcus's preliminary report arrived via encrypted email. Amara Jackson, 5 years of verifiable employment history, no criminal record, no social media presence. Education records from a community college in Savannah. References impeccable. Too impeccable. Ethan frowned. A perfect record often meant a fabricated one. He scrolled through the report, pausing at a single line. Background lacks depth. Possible alias. His pulse quickened. Who was Amara Jackson? He returned to the pool deck, the night air cool against his skin. The empty bottle and missing files were no coincidence. They were a challenge, a gauntlet. Amara's voice echoed in his mind. I didn't realize it would be an issue. Her nonchalance was deliberate, a performance. And that man, who was he? A friend, she'd said, but friends didn't slip away like shadows. Ethan's fingers tightened around his glass. He'd built an empire by trusting his gut, and his gut told him Amara Jackson was more than a housekeeper. She was a storm, waiting to break. As the moon rose over the harbor, Ethan made a decision. He'd watch, test, and uncover whatever game she was playing. But first, he needed those files back. And answers. What's Amara's next move? Got a theory about her mysterious friend? Drop it in the comments. And if you're loving this twisty tale, hit that like button and subscribe to see how Ethan unravels the secrets, or gets caught in them. The moon hung low over the Caldwell estate, its silver light filtering through the live oaks that fringed Amara Jackson's small cottage at the property's edge. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and coffee gone cold. Amara sat at her kitchen table, a worn leather journal open before her, its pages a mosaic of yellowed newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, and faded photographs. Her fingers lingered on a grainy image of her father, Malcolm Jackson, standing on the docks of the Jackson Marina, his smile wide as he held a fishing net, the Charleston harbor sparkling behind him. That was 20 years ago, when the marina was the heart of a vibrant community, before Victor Caldwell's empire tore it apart. Amara's eyes traced the headline of a clipped article. Caldwell Corp acquires waterfront in contentious deal. The date, June 2005, stirred a familiar ache in her chest. She could still hear her father's laughter, smell the salt and diesel of the docks where she'd run as a child, her bare feet slapping against sun-warmed wood. Malcolm had been the marina's anchor, a man who greeted every fisherman by name, who hosted summer festivals that drew families from across the Lowcountry. But Victor Caldwell's lawyers had buried him in paperwork, outmaneuvered him in court, and stripped away everything he'd built. The memory of her father's final days, his haunted eyes, his silence, clawed at her. He'd taken his own life, leaving her alone at 17, a wound that time had only sharpened. She closed the journal, her fingers trembling slightly. She'd planned this for 5 years, slipping into Ethan Caldwell's world, earning his trust, all to expose the truth about his father's crimes. The champagne bottle, the missing files, and the pool stunt with Jamal were calculated to unsettle Ethan and draw him into her game. But tonight, as she sat in the quiet, doubt crept in. Ethan wasn't the cold tycoon she'd expected. His sharp gaze held questions, not cruelty, and his voice carried a weariness mirrored hers. Could she destroy him to get to Victor? The question gnawed at her, a betrayal of the fire that had fueled her for 2 decades. A sharp knock at the door snapped her from her thoughts. Nia slipped inside, her copper curls catching the lamplight, her face taut with urgency. She said, "You're in deep now," shutting the door with a soft click. I drove past the main house. Ethan's car is still there, and the lights are on in his study. He's not letting this go, Amara. You and Jamal in his pool. That was a bold move, but it's got him sniffing around. Amara leaned back in her chair, her lips curving faintly. Good. Let him sniff. He's curious. Not dangerous. Not yet. She tapped the journal, its leather cover worn smooth by years of handling. He's already called his investigator. I heard him on the phone when I passed his study to drop off his evening coffee. He's digging into my background, just like we planned. Nia sank into the chair opposite, her hands twisting together. And what happens when he finds nothing? Your cover's tight, but it's thin. No social media, no real roots. He's not stupid, Amara. He'll know something's up. Her voice softened, concern edging through. And Jamal, how sure are you that he'll stick to the plan? He's got his score to settle with the Caldwells. Amara's gaze drifted to a photo tucked into the journal. Her father and a teenage girl. Herself, smiling, unaware of the storm coming. Jamal's lost as much as I have, she said quietly. His father was Victor's partner, framed and exiled. He's not here for chaos. He's here for justice, same as me. But her voice wavered, betraying the doubt she couldn't entirely silence. Jamal's intensity at the pool and quick exit when Ethan appeared were part of the plan. But his anger felt raw and unpredictable. Nia leaned forward, her eyes searching Amara's face. And Ethan? You're playing him like a pawn. But what if he's not like his father? You saw him tonight, the way he looked at you. He's not just some rich mark. What if you start feeling something? Will you still pull the trigger on this plan? Amara's chest tightened. She stood, pacing to the window, where the ocean whispered beyond the trees. Feelings don't change facts, she said, more to herself than Nia. Victor Caldwell destroyed my father, my home, my community. Ethan's his heir, his legacy. He benefits from every deal his father made, every life his father crushed. But the words felt hollow. Ethan's face flashed in her mind, his furrowed brow, the way he'd stood by the pool, not threatening but searching, as if he sensed the weight she carried. Nia rose, crossing to Amara's side. I'm with you, You know that. But this isn't just about evidence or justice. It's personal. You're carrying 20 years of pain, and Ethan's the closest you've ever gotten to answers. Just be careful. Revenge has a way of burning everyone, not just the guilty. Amara turned, her fingers brushing the journal's cover. I've been careful for 5 years, Nia. Every step, every lie, every forged document to get me into this house. I can't stop now, not when I'm this close. But as she spoke, her eyes lingered on the photo of her father, his smile a ghost that haunted her. She'd come here to destroy the Caldwells, to make Victor pay for her father's death. So why did the thought of Ethan's searching gaze make her heart ache? Outside, the harbor sighed, its waves carrying memories of a lost world. Amara closed the journal, sliding it into a hidden compartment beneath a loose floorboard. The game was on, and she was playing for keeps. But for the first time, she wondered if her heart was playing a different game altogether. What's driving Amara's quest? Justice, revenge, or something deeper? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if her hidden pain grips you, smash that like button and subscribe to see where this emotional tide takes her next. The late afternoon sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the Parker property's 30 acres of pristine Charleston coastline in hues of gold and amber. Ethan Caldwell stood at the edge of a cliff, hands in his pockets, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth. The ocean roared below, waves crashing against jagged rocks, their rhythm contrasting to the turmoil within him. He'd driven out on impulse. The missing acquisition papers and Amara Jackson's cryptic presence in his pool, gnawing at his thoughts. The Parker property was the crown jewel of his subsequent development, a luxury resort to rival any on the East Coast. But something about it felt heavier now, as if the land itself held secrets. The hum of an engine broke his reverie. A modest sedan pulled up beside his Range Rover, and Amara stepped out, uninvited, her white sundress fluttering in the coastal breeze. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders, framing a face that held both resolve and something softer, almost haunted. Ethan's eyes narrowed. I don't recall inviting you, Ms. Jackson. She moved to stand beside him, close enough that he caught the faint jingle of the silver pendant she always wore, a tiny replica of a Marina key. You didn't, she said, her voice steady, carrying that low country cadence that seemed to weave through every word. But you left your property plans open on your desk, marked with questions in my handwriting. I figured you'd want to discuss them. Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd noticed the annotations, precise, elegant notes in the margins of the returned files, raising concerns about environmental impacts and zoning laws his team had overlooked. Those points you made, he said carefully, about the ecological risks, the community displacement. They're sharp. My consultants missed them entirely. Amara's gaze remained fixed on the horizon, where gulls wheeled against the fading light. Sometimes, the closer you are to something, the harder it is to see its flaws. She paused, her fingers brushing the pendant. This land has history, Mr. Caldwell. Stories deeper than your blueprints. He turned to face her, his patience thinning. You know a lot about real estate for a housekeeper. His voice carried an edge, honed by years of boardroom battles. What's your angle here? She met his gaze, her brown eyes fierce with a challenge that quickened his pulse. And you seem to know very little about your employees for a man so obsessed with control. She stepped closer, the wind tugging at her dress. Tell me, what do you see when you look at this land? Profit? Progress? Ethan frowned, caught off guard by the intensity in her voice. I see opportunity, development that could boost the local economy and create jobs. Opportunity. Amara's laugh was sharp, devoid of humor. I see graves, not literal ones, but the burial grounds of dreams. What stood here 20 years ago, before your father's company swept through? The question hit like a physical blow. 20 years ago, Ethan had been fresh out of business school, eager to prove himself in Victor Caldwell's empire. The details of old acquisitions were a blur, lost in a whirlwind of deals. "Enlighten me," he said, his voice rough. "A community," Amara said, her tone hardening. "Small businesses, families, and a marina were the heart of this coast. The Jackson Marina is owned by my father, Malcolm Jackson, until Victor Caldwell decided it was worth more as condos." Her eyes blazed, and for the first time, Ethan saw raw pain beneath her composure. "They fought, you know. My father and the others tried to hold on, but your father's lawyers buried them in paperwork until they had nothing left." Ethan went still, the name Jackson sparking a memory. Later that evening, in his study, he pulled old files from corporate storage, which were delivered at his urgent request. Yellowed documents revealed the truth. The Jackson Marina, a family-owned business, had been central to a vibrant community. Malcolm Jackson had fought Caldwell Corp's acquisition, claiming the land was his family's legacy. A newspaper article, dated July 2005, stared back at him. "Local business owner dies in apparent suicide after failed legal battle." A photo showed Malcolm on the marina's dock, arm around a teenage girl with haunting eyes. Eyes Ethan recognized as Amara's. His phone buzzed. Marcus's voice was clipped. "Got something, sir. Amara Jackson's background checks out, but it's too clean, like it was built to be found. And there's a hit on her real name. Amara, Stella Jackson, daughter of Malcolm Jackson. She vanished after his death, resurfaced 5 years ago." Ethan stared at the photo, his chest tight. "Keep digging," he ordered, then hung up. Amara's words echoed back at the cliff. Some stories deserve to be remembered. He returned to where they'd stood, the ocean now a dark expanse under the stars. "Amara," he called into the empty air, surprising himself with her first name. "Who are you?" In her cottage, Amara sat with her father's journal, her fingers tracing his final entry. "For Amara, my star, keep the truth alive." She'd come to destroy the Caldwells, but Ethan's searching gaze lingered in her mind, a crack in her resolve. Was he just his father's heir, or something more? What's Amara planning next, and can Ethan trust her? Drop your theories in the comments, and if this cliffside showdown has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe to unravel the secrets of the tide. The Charleston night was thick with humidity, the air heavy as Amara Jackson sat on the porch of her cottage, the faint glow of a lantern casting shadows across the weathered planks. The ocean murmured beyond the trees, a restless lullaby that did little to soothe the turmoil in her heart. Her confrontation with Ethan Caldwell at the Parker property lingered like a bruise. His shock when she revealed her father's name, and his eyes searched hers for answers she wasn't ready to give. She'd planned every move to unravel Victor Caldwell's empire, but Ethan's presence, his unguarded curiosity, stirred doubts she couldn't afford. Her fingers brushed the silver Marina key pendant at her neck, a tether to her father's memory, to the justice she'd sworn to deliver. A rustle in the darkness snapped her attention. Jamal Parker emerged from the shadows, his sharp features taut with urgency, his dark jacket blending into the night. The man from the pool who'd slipped away when Ethan appeared, moved with the quiet precision of someone used to staying unseen. "You're pushing it, Amara," he said, his voice low, edged with frustration. "Caldwell's digging into you. I saw his investigator's car parked down the road. Marcus Bennett. He's not some amateur. If he connects us, this whole plan falls apart." Amara stood, her sundress swaying as she crossed her arms. "He won't connect us, Jamal. Not yet. My cover's held for 5 years, and your part was just the spark, to make Ethan question everything." She paused, her gaze softening. "You played it perfectly at the pool. He's rattled, just like we wanted." Jamal leaned against the porch railing, his eyes distant, fixed on the harbor's faint shimmer. "Rattled's not enough. Victor Caldwell ruined my father, my family. I didn't come back to play games with his son." His voice carried a weight that pulled Amara back to a memory she'd pieced together from Jamal's stories and her father's journal. 20 years ago, Charleston, 2005. Jamal Parker, then 17, stood on the same docks where Amara had played as a child, watching his father, Isaiah Parker, argue with Victor Caldwell in the marina's office. Isaiah, Victor's business partner, had been the financial backbone of Caldwell Corp's early ventures, his sharp mind balancing Victor's ruthless ambition. But when Isaiah questioned irregularities in the company's books, millions siphoned to offshore accounts, Victor turned on him. Forged documents surfaced, painting Isaiah as an embezzler. The scandal broke overnight. Headlines screamed Parker betrays Caldwell Corp, and Isaiah, disgraced, fled to South America, leaving Jamal and his mother to face eviction, whispers, and shame. Jamal, barely out of high school, worked odd jobs: dishwasher, dockhand, courier, scraping by in Charleston's underbelly, then followed his father's trail to Buenos Aires, piecing together Victor's lies through smuggled records and late-night calls. Amara had found Jamal 2 years ago, after a cryptic email from an anonymous source led her to a Buenos Aires cafe. There, Jamal shared a tattered ledger from his father's files, proof of Victor's fraud. Their losses mirrored each other. The same man destroyed her father's marina and his father's reputation. They'd allied, bound by pain, to bring Victor down. The pool stunt was Jamal's idea, a bold move to draw Ethan's attention, to make him question his world. Back in the present, Amara touched Jamal's arm, grounding him. "You've been tracking Victor longer than I have," she said softly. "You know how careful he is. Ethan's our way in, his access, his trust. We need him to keep digging." Jamal's jaw tightened. And if he's like his father? If he's just another Caldwell, protecting the empire? His hand hovered near his jacket, a reflex born of years on the run. "I didn't survive South America to let another Caldwell win." Amara's eyes flickered with doubt, the same doubt Nia had stirred the night before. "He's not Victor," she said, her voice quieter than she intended. "I saw it on the cliff today. His shock when I mentioned my father. He didn't know, but he's still a Caldwell, and that makes him dangerous." Jamal studied her, his gaze piercing. "You're getting too close, Amara. I see it in your face. Don't let him get under your skin. We're here for justice, not feelings." He stepped back, his silhouette merging with the night. "I'll lay low. Keep Marcus off my trail. But you need to stay sharp. The next move's yours." Amara nodded, watching him disappear into the darkness. Alone, she opened her father's journal, its pages a map of her mission. A note in Malcolm's handwriting stood out. "Victor's secrets are buried deep, but the truth always surfaces." She closed the book, her resolve hardening, but Ethan's face, his searching blue eyes, lingered, a crack in her armor she couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, in his study, Ethan pored over the old files, the article about Malcolm Jackson's suicide burning in his mind. Marcus's report confirmed Amara's identity, but the lack of depth in her history screamed deception. He redialed Marcus. "Find out who that man at the pool was, and cross-check Amara's records for anything tied to the Jackson Marina. I want answers, Marcus, not shadows." As the harbor whispered beyond his window, Ethan felt the weight of a truth he hadn't yet grasped. Amara wasn't just a housekeeper. She was a reckoning, and he was caught in her tide. Who is Jamal, and what's his stake in this game? Share your guesses in the comments, and if you're caught in this web of secrets, hit that like button and subscribe to see how Amara's plan unfolds. The Charleston night pulsed with the threat of a storm, the air heavy with the promise of rain as clouds smothered the stars above the Caldwell estate. Ethan Caldwell stood in his study, the glow of his desk lamp casting sharp shadows across the old files he'd unearthed about the Jackson Marina. The article about Malcolm Jackson's suicide weighed on him, its words a haunting echo of Amara's accusation on the cliff. Victor Caldwell decided it was worth more as condos. His fingers hovered over his phone, Marcus's latest report open. Amara Stella Jackson, no trace of the man at the pool. Security footage still unavailable. The malfunction was no accident, and Ethan's gut churned with the certainty that Amara was orchestrating something bigger than he could grasp. A flicker of movement outside drew his gaze. Through the window, lightning illuminated the estate's grounds, and there she was, Amara, crossing the lawn toward the mansion, her silhouette stark against the gathering dark. She wore a simple black dress, the silver Marina key pendant glinting at her neck. Ethan's pulse quickened. He needed answers, not just about the missing files or the champagne, but about her. Why her presence unsettled him in a way no boardroom rival ever had. The power surged, plunging the study into darkness. Ethan swore under his breath, grabbing a flashlight from his desk. As the backup generator hummed faintly, he moved toward the door, only to find Amara already there, a silver tray bearing a single coffee cup in her hands. She said powers out across the house, her voice calm, almost too quiet. Generator should stabilize soon. She stepped inside, setting the tray on his desk with meticulous care, her movements betraying nothing. Ethan studied her, searching for a crack in her composure. He said the files that were missing, his tone measured, are back on my desk, annotated in your handwriting. Care to explain? Amara met his gaze, unflinching. The Parker property papers, I filed them in your safe per Clara's old instructions. You must have found them. Her lips curved slightly, a challenge lurking in her eyes. You seem tense, Mr. Caldwell. Something bothering you? He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. You're not just a housekeeper, Amara. Those notes, environmental impacts, community history, nobody catches details like that without a stake in the game. Who was the man at the pool? What are you after? Her breath hitched, but she held her ground, the pendant glinting as lightning flashed again. You want the truth? Her voice dropped, low and fierce. Your father destroyed my father, my home, everything I loved. I have proof, emails, bank records, a recording of the night Victor Caldwell gave Malcolm Jackson a choice: take a payoff and disappear, or lose everything. He chose a third option. Her voice cracked, betraying the pain she'd buried for 20 years. He chose death. Ethan's chest tightened. Her words sliced through him. He saw the raw grief in her eyes, the same grief he'd glimpsed on the cliff, and something shifted inside him, an urge to reach for her, to bridge the chasm between them. Before he could stop himself, he closed the gap, his hand brushing her cheek. Her skin was warm, her eyes wide with defiance and vulnerability. The air crackled, not just with the storm, but with something more profound, more dangerous. He leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that was all fire and regret, her hands gripping his shirt as if anchoring herself against the tide of her own emotions. Amara pulled back, her breath ragged, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. This wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered, stepping away, her arms wrapping around herself. You're a Caldwell. I can't. Her words faltered, torn between her mission and the pull she felt toward him. Before Ethan could respond, a sharp crack split the air, a gunshot, splintering the wooden trellis outside the study window. Instinct took over. Ethan tackled Amara to the floor, shielding her as another shot rang out, glass shattering above them. His heart pounded, his hands checking her for wounds. "Are you hit?" he demanded, his voice hoarse. "No," Amara gasped, her eyes wild, scanning the darkness. "But that wasn't part of my plan." Ethan pulled her behind the desk, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. Then whose plan was it? In the distance, he saw a figure fleeing through the trees, clad in dark clothing. His phone buzzed, and a text from an unknown number said, "Back off, Caldwell. Some secrets are worth killing for." Amara's hand trembled as she clutched her pendant, her resolve fraying. "Victor," she whispered. "He's got eyes everywhere. Cops, politicians, hired muscle. He knows I'm here." Her voice hardened, but her eyes betrayed fear, not for herself, but for the fragile thread of trust forming between them. Ethan gripped her hand, his mind racing. "We're not safe here. We need to move." As lightning illuminated the shattered window, he realized this wasn't just about files or a marina. It was a war, and Amara had dragged him into its heart. Whose bullet was meant for Ethan and Amara? Share your theories in the comments, and if this stormy clash has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe to see how their dangerous dance unfolds. The Charleston night was a restless beast, its humid air thick with the aftermath of the storm that had shattered Ethan Caldwell's study window. Ethan and Amara Jackson crouched in the shadows of a safe house, a nondescript bungalow tucked in a quiet neighborhood off the coast. The faint hum of a ceiling fan was the only sound, save for the distant wail of sirens following their frantic escape from the estate. Ethan's shirt was rumpled, glass dust clinging to his sleeves, while Amara clutched her silver Marina key pendant, her knuckles tight. The gunshot, the text from an unknown number. "Back off, Caldwell. Some secrets are worth killing for," still echoed in their minds, a stark reminder that Victor Caldwell's reach extended far beyond corporate boardrooms. Ethan's phone buzzed, Marcus's name flashing on the screen. He hesitated, his thumb hovering. "Don't answer," Amara whispered, her eyes sharp in the dim light of a single lamp. "We can't trust him." "Why not?" Ethan's voice was low, strained. Marcus had been his go-to for years, a former military man whose loyalty had never wavered, or so he'd thought. "He's been with me since I took over the company. He's digging into your background, the man at the pool." "That's the problem," Amara cut in, rising from the couch. Her dress was creased, but her posture was resolute. "He's too good at his job, and Victor's too good at buying people." She pulled out her phone and showed Ethan a grainy photo of Marcus shaking hands with a known Charleston councilman, a man rumored to be in Victor's pocket. "I've been tracking your father's network for years. He owns half the city. Cops, judges, city officials. Why do you think that shooter got away so fast? Victor's got eyes everywhere, and Marcus is one of them." Ethan's jaw clenched, the photo a punch to his gut. Victor's influence was no secret in Charleston's elite circles, but Ethan had always seen it as business acumen, deals struck in smoky backrooms, campaign donations traded for permits. Now, it felt sinister, a web of corruption that had ensnared his investigator. "Marcus has been feeding him everything," Ethan said, more to himself than Amara. "My calls, my suspicions about you." She nodded, her expression grim. "And now Victor knows I'm a threat. That shot wasn't random. It was a warning." Her fingers brushed the pendant, a nervous tick. "We need to move faster. The evidence, emails, bank records, that recording, is all on Caldwell Corp's old servers, the ones in the downtown office. We can expose him if we can get to them before Victor does. Ethan stood, pacing the small living room, his mind racing. Those servers are locked behind biometric scanners. Only I can access them. He met her gaze, a flicker of trust battling his wariness. But you knew that, didn't you? That's why you've been playing me, pushing me to dig, to get us here. Amara's eyes softened, but her voice held steady. I needed you to see the truth, Ethan. Not just for me, but for everyone Victor hurt. My father, the Marina families. She hesitated, her lips parting as if to say more, but a knock at the door cut her off. Jamal Parker stepped inside, his sharp features etched with tension, a backpack slung over one shoulder. We've got trouble, he said, locking the door behind him. Marcus was spotted near the estate an hour ago. He's not just tailing you, he's coordinating with Victor's people. He dropped the backpack, pulling out a tablet. But I've got something you need to see. He swiped to a schematic of the old Caldwell Corp building, its basement server room marked in red. I've been hacking into Victor's security systems for months. The servers hold everything: financial records, forged documents, even the paper trail that framed my father, Isaiah Parker. But Victor upgraded the security, retina scans and motion sensors. We need your access, Ethan, and we need it now. Ethan's eyes narrowed, the sting of Marcus's betrayal sharpening his resolve. Isaiah Parker, he said. The name is heavy. Amara mentioned him on the cliff. Your father was Victor's partner, accused of embezzlement 20 years ago. You're saying Victor set him up? Jamal's laugh was bitter, his eyes glinting with old pain. Framed him, exiled him, left my family with nothing. I was 17, Ethan, watching my mother cry as we lost our home. I spent years tracking my father's trail, piecing together Victor's lies. Amara found me, and we decided to bring him down together. Amara stepped forward, her voice firm but laced with urgency. The shooter wasn't Jamal. He texted me after it happened. He thinks Victor hired someone, maybe through Marcus. We're running out of time. If we don't get to those servers, Victor will wipe them clean. Ethan studied them both, Amara's fierce determination, Jamal's raw anger. They were allies bound by loss, but he was still a Caldwell, caught in their crosshairs. Yet the thought of Victor's betrayal, of Marcus's duplicity, ignited something in him. I'm in, he said, his voice steady. But we do this my way. No more secrets. Amara's gaze flickered with surprise, then gratitude. No more secrets, she agreed, though her fingers tightened on the pendant, a silent reminder of the truths she still held close. As sirens wailed closer, Ethan grabbed his keys. We need to move. This safe house isn't safe anymore. Not if Marcus is Victor's man. Jamal nodded, slinging the backpack over his shoulder. I know a place. A boathouse, off the grid. We plan our next move there. They slipped out the back door, the night swallowing them as red and blue lights flashed in the distance. Ethan's Range Rover gleamed in the alley, but Amara pulled him toward her sedan. They'll be looking for your car, she said, her voice low. As she drove, her hands steady on the wheel, Ethan felt the weight of their alliance, a fragile trust forged in the shadow of betrayal. Who's pulling Victor's strings? And can Ethan trust Amara and Jamal? Drop your guesses in the comments, and if this betrayal has you on edge, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the next wave of secrets. The old Caldwell Corp building loomed against the Charleston night, its Art Deco facade a relic of a bygone era, now a digital crypt for corporate secrets. Ethan Caldwell, Amara Jackson, and Jamal Parker crouched in the shadow of a neighboring warehouse, their breaths shallow as they watched the security guard make his rounds under flickering streetlights. The humid air clung to their skin, and the distant hum of the harbor was a faint reminder of the world beyond their mission. Ethan's shirt was still dusted with glass from the estate's shattered window, while Amara's fingers gripped her Marina key pendant, her eyes scanning the building's entrance. Jamal's tablet glowed faintly, displaying a blueprint of the basement server room, their target, where evidence of Victor Caldwell's crimes lay buried. Ethan's voice was a low murmur. "The security's tighter than I thought. Victor upgraded it last month. Retina scans, motion sensors, armed guards. My keycard gets us through the first door, but the server room needs my biometrics." He glanced at Amara, her resolve a quiet fire beside him. "You knew that, didn't you?" She nodded, her gaze steady. "It's why we need you, Ethan. Those servers hold everything. Victor's fraud, the forged documents that framed Jamal's father, the threats that killed mine. We get in. We get the truth." Jamal swiped his tablet, zooming in on the schematic. "I've been mapping Victor's systems for months. There's a secondary access point through the old maintenance tunnels. Less guarded, but risky. We move fast, or we're done." His voice carried the edge of a man who'd spent years evading shadows, his trust in Ethan fragile but necessary. Ethan studied the blueprint, his mind racing. Marcus's betrayal still stung. His investigator, loyal to Victor, had likely tipped off the shooter. Victor's network of corrupt council members, police, and hired muscle made every step a gamble. "We do this together," Ethan said, his tone firm. "No splitting up." They waited until the guard turned the corner, then darted to the side entrance. Ethan's keycard buzzed them through, the door clicking open to reveal a dimly lit corridor. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of dust and metal. Their footsteps echoed as they navigated the maze of hallways, guided by Jamal's tablet. Amara led the way, her movements precise, as if she'd memorized every turn. Ethan caught her eye, a question forming, but a faint sound, voices, boots on concrete, stopped him cold. "Roman's team," Jamal whispered, his hand hovering near his jacket. "They're already here." Amara pulled out her phone, displaying a secondary schematic. "The server room's through that door, but there's a maintenance tunnel access point. It's our best shot." Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled slightly, betraying the moment's weight. "I've planned this for 5 years, Ethan. Every detail. We can't fail now." They slipped behind a row of industrial lockers, the tunnel entrance hidden behind a rusted panel. The narrow passage forced them to single file, Ethan leading, Amara in the middle, and Jamal covering their rear. Water dripped in the darkness, their flashlight beams catching cobwebs and ancient pipes. Fresh footprints in the dust confirmed someone else was down here. Victor's men, or worse. A shot rang out, deafening in the confined space. Bullets sparked off the pipes above, and Ethan shoved Amara down, his body shielding hers. "Move!" Jamal hissed, pushing them toward a side tunnel. Their footsteps pounded, echoing betrayingly loud as more shots followed, voices shouting behind them. They emerged into a cavernous chamber where ancient generators loomed like silent sentinels. Across the room, the server access point glowed, a sleek console with a retina scanner. But they weren't alone. Victor Caldwell's voice cut through the shadows. "I must admit, Ethan, I'm almost proud." He stepped from behind a generator, his silver hair glinting under the emergency lights. Marcus flanked him with a gun drawn. 6 armed men emerged, surrounding them. Victor's smile was cold, calculating. "This initiative, it's what I always wanted from you, son." Ethan positioned himself in front of Amara, his voice icy. "Trying to kill me seems extreme, even for you, father." "Kill you?" Victor laughed, his custom suit pristine despite the grime. "Those were warning shots, Ethan. I needed you here, with your biometrics. The servers. You led us right to them. Amara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the guns. It's over, Victor. We have proof of everything. The blackmail, the fraud, my father's murder. Murder? Victor's eyebrows rose. He pulled out a yellowed envelope, its edges brittle. Your father was weak, Amara. He couldn't handle progress. Read his real suicide note. Learn the truth about his cowardice. Amara froze, her eyes locked on the envelope. Ethan saw the war in her expression, doubt battling certainty. She took a step toward Victor, but Ethan grabbed her arm. Don't, he whispered. The lights flickered, plunging the chamber into darkness. Chaos erupted. Gunshots flashed like lightning, and someone slammed into Ethan, sending him sprawling. Amara's cry pierced the air as she wrestled Marcus for his gun, her lip bleeding but her grip fierce. Jamal darted to an electrical panel. His tablet connected, shouting, Victor's deleting the servers. Ethan lunged, tackling his father away from the console, years of unspoken rage fueling every move. Ethan pinned Victor to the ground as emergency lights sputtered on, casting a red glow. This ends now, he growled, the servers humming with secrets that could destroy them all. Who will win this showdown, and what's in that suicide note? Drop your predictions in the comments, and if this heart-pounding clash has you gripped, smash that like button and subscribe for the next twist. The Caldwell Corp server room buzzed with the hum of ancient machines, their flickering lights casting jagged shadows across the concrete chamber. Ethan Caldwell pinned his father, Victor, to the floor, his hands gripping the lapels of Victor's pristine suit, rage fueling every muscle. Amara Jackson stood nearby, her lip bleeding from her struggle with Marcus, whose gun she now held steady, its barrel aimed at Victor. Jamal Parker worked frantically at an electrical panel, his tablet connected to the building's systems, trying to stop the servers from wiping themselves. The red glow of emergency lights bathed the scene, amplifying the chaos of gunshots and shouts as Jamal's reinforcements clashed with Marcus's men in the tunnels beyond. Victor's cold smile didn't waver, even under Ethan's weight. You're making a mistake, son, he rasped, his silver hair disheveled. Those servers are wiping as we speak. 20 years of secrets will be gone in 30 seconds. Your word against mine. Amara's eyes blazed, but her hand trembled on the gun. She glanced at the yellowed envelope Victor had dropped, labeled Malcolm Jackson's final note. Doubt flickered across her face, the same doubt that had haunted her since Victor's taunt about her father's cowardice. Ethan caught her gaze, a silent plea to hold fast. He said, "Don't let him get to you." His voice was low but firm. Jamal's shout cut through the tension. The servers are going dark. Someone's triggered a kill switch. His fingers flew across the tablet, but the console's screen flashed red. Data deletion, 85% complete. Amara's resolve snapped into focus. She reached for her Marina key pendant, twisting it open with trembling fingers to reveal a tiny USB drive. Victor thought he'd won 20 years ago, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. But my father was smarter than that. She darted to the console, plugging in the drive. Everything's here. Emails, bank records, the recording of your threats. I uploaded it 10 minutes ago to every major news outlet, law enforcement agency, and financial regulator in the country. Victor's smile faltered, his eyes widening. You're lying, he hissed, struggling against Ethan's hold. But the hum of the servers shifted, a notification pinging on Jamal's tablet. Upload complete. Data transmitted. Ethan released Victor, standing slowly, his chest heaving. He picked up the fallen envelope, unfolding the brittle paper with care. Malcolm Jackson's handwriting stared back, each word a dagger. Victor, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, not from weakness, but to protect my daughter. I know the truth about Isaiah Parker's frame-up, the embezzled millions you stole, the offshore accounts. Most importantly, I know about Ethan. He's not your son, he's Isaiah's. You destroyed Isaiah to keep Ethan as your heir, to hide the truth in his face. The proof, adoption papers, DNA tests, is on the servers, with copies in my Marina safe. Combination Amara's birthday. My life for her safety. Leave her alone. Malcolm Jackson. Ethan's hands shook, the words blurring. He looked at Jamal, whose face was a mask of shock, his tablet forgotten. Is it true? Ethan whispered. Am I your father's son? Victor's laugh was hollow, bitter. Yes. Your mother and Isaiah had an affair. When she died, he wanted to claim you. But I couldn't let that happen. You were my legacy. His voice cracked, betraying a flicker of desperation. I gave you everything. Power. A name. You gave me lies, Ethan said, his voice ice cold. He turned to Jamal, seeing his shock reflected in his brother's eyes. You framed Isaiah, drove Malcolm to his death, all to keep me as your pawn. Amara lowered the gun, tears streaming down her face as she met Ethan's gaze. My father died to protect me, she said, her voice breaking, not from shame, but from love. He hid the truth, knowing one day I'd find it. Her hand clutched the pendant, and the USB drive was a testament to Malcolm's sacrifice. Jamal's tablet lit up with notifications, headlines flashing across the screen. Caldwell Empire built on fraud. 20-year cover-up exposed. Isaiah Parker cleared in embezzlement scandal. Jackson Marina tragedy. Linked to corporate greed. Victor sagged in the grip of Jamal's reinforcements, his empire crumbling with each ping. Disarmed and pinned by two men, Marcus glared in silence, his betrayal exposed. Ethan stepped toward Amara, the letter still in his hand. You did it, he said softly. The truth is out. But her eyes held a storm of emotions. Relief, grief, and something more profound. A flicker of the connection that had sparked in their kiss. She shook her head, stepping back. This doesn't change what I came for. Justice. Not whatever this is between us. Jamal moved to her side, his voice low. We need to get out of here. The police, the real ones, are coming. Victor's done, and Marcus will face charges for his role. He glanced at Ethan, a grudging respect in his eyes. You didn't have to tackle him, but you did. Maybe you're not all Caldwell. Ethan nodded, the weight of his true identity settling over him. The servers hummed, their secrets now public. But Malcolm's letter held one final truth that could reshape everything. As sirens wailed closer, Ethan, Amara, and Jamal slipped into the tunnels, the Charleston night swallowing their footsteps. What does Ethan's true parentage mean for the fight ahead? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this shocking truth has you reeling, hit that like button and subscribe to see how the tide turns. The Charleston dawn broke gray and heavy, the harbor's waters churning under a restless sky. Ethan Caldwell stood in the FBI's local office, his shirt wrinkled from a night of relentless questioning, his blue eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Across from him, Amara Jackson sat at a steel table, her fingers tracing the Marina key pendant at her neck, her posture rigid despite the weight of victory. The server room showdown had exposed Victor Caldwell's empire of lies, fraud, blackmail, and the truth about Malcolm Jackson's death now splashed across every news outlet. Jamal Parker leaned against the wall, his sharp features tense as he coordinated with agents via his tablet, ensuring the evidence from Amara's USB drive was cataloged. The room buzzed with activity, agents typing reports, phones ringing with media inquiries. A television in the corner played a loop of headlines. Caldwell Corp collapses amid fraud allegations. Isaiah Parker, exonerated after 20 years. Jackson Marina tragedy, tied to corporate greed. Ethan's gaze lingered on a photo of the marina, a vibrant hub 20 years ago, where families like the Thompsons ran a fish market that drew locals and tourists alike. Victor's condos had erased their livelihood, leaving them to scrape by in a cramped apartment, their dreams buried with Malcolm's. Amara's voice broke his thoughts, soft but firm. The Thompsons are getting their market back. She held up her phone, showing a draft press release from the newly formed Parker Jackson Foundation. The recovered funds, Victor's offshore accounts, will compensate every family displaced by his deals. The Thompsons, the Wilsons, the Carters, they'll have a chance to rebuild. Ethan nodded, his chest tight. The evidence Amara had uploaded, emails, bank records, a recording of Victor's threats, had unraveled decades of corruption. But her words on the cliff echoed, "Justice, not whatever this is between us." The kiss in the storm, the moment she'd saved him from the gunshot, lingered like a question he couldn't answer. "You did more than expose him," he said quietly. "You gave those families their voice back." Her eyes met his, a storm of emotions flickering, relief, grief, and a guarded warmth she couldn't hide. "It's not enough," she said, her voice catching. "My father's gone. Those years, those lives, they can't be unlived." She stood, pacing to the window, her fingers gripping the pendant. "I came here to destroy your family, Ethan. Not to feel this." Her admission hung between them, raw and unguarded, a crack in the armor she'd worn for years. Before Ethan could respond, Naya entered, her copper curls pulled back, a stack of files in her arms. She said the FBI's got everything they need, setting the files down. They're charging Marcus with conspiracy and obstruction. He's been feeding Victor intel for years, even arranged that shooter. She glanced at Amara, a silent nod of support. "I'm helping the agents organize the evidence for the prosecutors. Victor's facing multiple counts. Fraud, blackmail, maybe even manslaughter for your father's death." Amara's shoulders relaxed slightly, but her eyes stayed fixed on the harbor. "Thank you, Nia, for everything." Nia had been her anchor, slipping her the photo of Marcus with Victor's councilman, keeping her cottage a haven for planning. Now, Nia would join the foundation, her organizational skills turning pain into progress. Jamal approached, his tablet buzzing with updates. "They've traced Victor's offshore accounts to a network of shell companies. The feds are working to locate my father in South America. They've already issued a formal apology for his frame-up." His voice softened, a rare vulnerability. "He might come home, Amara, because of you." Ethan watched them, his heart heavy with the truth of his parentage. Isaiah Parker, not Victor, was his father, a fact that reshaped his identity, his legacy. He'd been raised as a Caldwell, molded by Victor's ambition, but now he stood on the edge of something new. "What happens to Caldwell Corp?" he asked, his voice low. "Thousands of jobs and families like the Thompsons are caught in the fallout." Amara turned, her gaze steady. "The foundation will protect them. Jamal's idea is an emergency fund to support displaced workers. We're not just tearing down, Ethan. We're rebuilding." Her words carried a conviction that stirred him, but her hesitation lingered, a shadow of her fear that loving him might betray her father's memory. An agent interrupted, handing Ethan a file. "Mr. Caldwell, your father is in custody and requests to see you. He's at the detention center." Ethan's jaw tightened. Victor's empire was crumbling, his network of corrupt officials unraveling, but the man still held power over him, a father in name, not blood. Amara touched his arm, her fingers light but grounding. "You don't have to face him alone," she said softly. "But you need to decide who you are now, not his son or heir, just Ethan." He nodded, her words cutting through the noise in his mind. The truth was out, but the cost was still unfolding, for the Thompsons, the Marina families, and himself. As they left the FBI office, the Charleston sky began to clear, a sliver of sunlight breaking through. Ethan, Amara, and Jamal stepped into a world forever changed. Their alliance was forged in fire, and their fight for justice was beginning. What will Ethan do with Victor's request? And can Amara reconcile her heart with her mission? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this wave of justice has you hooked, smash that like button and subscribe for the next chapter. 1 year later, the Jackson Marina gleamed under the Charleston sunset, its freshly stained wooden docks stretching into the harbor like arms welcoming the tide. Brass fittings sparkled, reflecting the golden light, and fishing boats bobbed at their moorings, their hulls creaking with the rhythm of the waves. Children raced along the boardwalk, their laughter mingling with the cries of seagulls, starkly contrasting the emptiness that had haunted this place for 2 decades. Once the heart of a vibrant community, the marina was alive again, its pulse restored by the Parker Jackson Foundation. Ethan Caldwell, now Ethan Parker, stood at the marina's edge, his casual button-down a far cry from the tailored suits of his past. The weight of the Caldwell name had lifted, replaced by a purpose that felt like his own. Inside the marina's office, now the Foundation's headquarters, Amara Jackson stood behind a desk, her fingers brushing a framed photograph of her father, Malcolm, grinning on the docks decades ago. Beside it hung a news clipping of Isaiah Parker's triumphant return from exile, and in the center, a photo from 6 months ago. Ethan and Amara cutting a ribbon at the marina's reopening, their smiles tentative but real. The Foundation, funded by Victor's seized offshore accounts, had restored the marina and supported displaced families like the Thompsons, whose fish market now thrived again, drawing crowds with its fresh shrimp and oyster po' boys. Amara's heart swelled at the sight, but a lingering ache remained, her father's absence, and whether her growing love for Ethan betrayed his sacrifice. Ethan entered the office, his presence steady, his smile softer than the man she'd met a year ago. "How was lunch with Isaiah?" she asked, setting down a stack of Foundation reports. "Good." "Good," Ethan said, crossing to the photos. "He's thinking of moving back permanently. Watching Jamal and me run the Foundation feels like a second chance at family." His voice softened, a trace of awe in it. "I never thought I'd have a father who wasn't Victor." Amara nodded, her fingers grazing the pendant at her neck. "And Victor? The sentencing's tomorrow, isn't it?" Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd come to cherish. "Federal prosecutors are pushing for the maximum: fraud, blackmail, conspiracy. I'm relieved, not because I want him to suffer, but because it means the lies are finally over." His eyes met hers, searching. "How about you? How are you holding up?" Her breath caught, the weight of his question pulling at her heart. "I thought exposing Victor would close the wound," she admitted, her voice low. "But every time I see this marina, I see my father's smile. And I wonder if loving you means letting him down." The confession slipped out, raw and unguarded, her eyes glistening with the conflict she'd carried since their kiss in the storm. Ethan stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "You're not letting him down, Amara. You brought his marina back, his community. You gave the Thompsons, the Wilsons, all of them a future. That's his legacy, and you're carrying it." Before she could respond, Nia burst in, her copper curls bouncing, a tablet in hand. She said, "You two need to see this," her voice brimming with excitement. She pulled up a news website, headlines scrolling. Parker Jackson Foundation restores Charleston community. Families reclaim Marina legacy. Victor Caldwell faces decades in prison. Nia explained that the investigative committee had released their final report. They've identified every family affected by Victor's deals over 30 years. With the foundation's funds, we can make it right. Schools, businesses, homes. Jamal followed, his usual intensity softened by purpose. "It's more than compensation," he said, glancing at Ethan. "We're breaking the cycle of loss. The Thompsons are selling out daily, and the Wilsons are planning a community center. My father's idea is that he wants to fund it." He paused, his eyes locking with Ethan's. "Never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're my brother." Ethan's throat tightened. The word brother was still new, still heavy. "We shouldn't do this alone," he said, turning to Amara. "The Parker Jackson Foundation needs both of us, and maybe a new name for me." He smiled, tentative but genuine. "Ethan Parker feels right. A name built on truth, not lies." Amara's heart stirred, her doubts softening in the face of his commitment. She opened her father's journal, its pages filled with dreams of a thriving marina. A loose photo slipped out. Malcolm and a teenage Amara, laughing on the docks, unaware of the coming storm. "He knew," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "All those years, I thought he gave up, but he was protecting me, trusting me to finish this." Ethan wrapped an arm around her, his touch grounding. "He'd be proud, Amara. Of the marina, the foundation of you." His voice dropped, intimate. "And maybe one of us, building something honest together." Outside, the marina buzzed with life. Fishermen unloading their catch, children chasing seagulls, the Thompsons' market alive with chatter. The foundation's benefit that night would draw donors, community leaders, and families, all united by a shared redemption. Amara leaned into Ethan, her heart wrestling with love and loyalty, but she felt the possibility of both for the first time. Can Ethan and Amara build a future from the ashes of the past? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this reborn marina has you inspired, hit that like button and subscribe for the final tide of their story. The Charleston harbor shimmered under a late afternoon sun, its waters reflecting hues of rose and gold, as the Jackson Marina buzzed with life. The freshly restored docks stretched out like veins of the community, alive with the chatter of fishermen unloading their catch and families strolling the boardwalk. The Parker Jackson Foundation had transformed the once desolate marina into a thriving hub, where the Thompsons' fish market drew crowds and the Wilsons' new community center echoed with plans for summer workshops. Amara Jackson stood on the main dock, her fingers tracing the silver marina key pendant at her neck, her heart full yet heavy with the weight of her father's absence. The marina was back, but Malcolm Jackson's laughter would never echo here again. Ethan Parker approached, his casual jeans and open-collared shirt starkly contrasting to the corporate armor he'd once worn as a Caldwell. The name change, legally finalized a week ago, felt like a shedding of skin, a reclaiming of a truth he'd never known. Isaiah Parker as his father, not Victor. His blue eyes softened as they met Amara's, a quiet strength in his stride. "Thought I'd find you here," he said, joining her at the dock's edge, where waves lapped gently against the pilings. "This place, it's everything you fought for." Amara's lips curved into a faint smile, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "It's more than I dreamed. The Thompsons sold out their shrimp stock today, and the Wilsons are planning a youth program. It's what my father wanted, a community, not just a business." Her voice caught, the pendant warm against her skin. "But sometimes I stand here and expect to see him, waving from a boat." Ethan's hand found hers, his touch steady. "He's here, Amara. In every plank of this dock, every smile on this boardwalk, you brought his dream back. His words carried the weight of their shared journey, from enemies to allies, from a kiss in a storm to a partnership forged in truth. She turned to face him, her brown eyes searching his. I came here for revenge, Ethan, to tear down everything Victor built. But you weren't supposed to be part of this. Her voice wavered, the conflict that had haunted her since their kiss surfacing again. Loving you feels like betraying my father, but not loving you feels like betraying myself. Ethan's throat tightened, her honesty cutting through him. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Then, let's build something new, something that honors him and us. He opened the box, revealing not a traditional ring, but a silver key, a replica of her pendant, inscribed with, "Truth sets us free." It's the key to the Marina office, your father's office. I made it into a ring because it's more than a door. It's our future, if you'll have me. Amara's breath caught, tears glistening as she read the inscription. The key symbolized her father's sacrifice, the truth she'd fought for, and now, a promise of love. Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling with possibility. Is that a yes? He asked, his eyes bright with hope. Instead of answering, she pulled him into a kiss, her lips tasting of salt and joy, the harbor breeze wrapping around them like an embrace. When they parted, she slipped the keyring onto her finger, its weight a vow. Yes, she said softly, her smile radiant. For my father, for us. Behind them, the marina came alive with the benefit's first guests, community leaders, donors, families like the Thompsons, whose market stall glowed with lanterns. Nia directed the catering team, her organizational skills now a cornerstone of the foundation's work, her copper curls catching the evening light. Jamal approached with Isaiah, their resemblance striking as they laughed, a father and son reunited after decades. Jamal said Dad was speaking at the benefit, and his usual intensity softened. He wants to fund a scholarship in Malcolm's name. Ethan squeezed Amara's hand, his voice low. Your father wrote that secrets are heaviest alone. He was right, but the truth is that it's lighter when shared with love. The marina creaked, as if agreeing, its docks a testament to redemption. As the sun dipped below the horizon, stars emerged, their light dancing on the water. A fishing boat's horn sounded, heading home, its call echoing the marina's past and future. Amara leaned into Ethan, her heart finally at peace. No more secrets, she whispered. No more secrets, Ethan agreed, pulling her close. Just us, and the stories we'll write together. The night unfolded, the benefit raising millions for the foundation, its mission to rebuild lives resonating with every guest. Once a grave of dreams, the marina was a beacon of hope, its waters carrying the promise of tomorrow. What stories will Ethan and Amara write next? Share your hopes in the comments. And if this tide of redemption has swept you away, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of truth and love.